So what an opening day. So I'll start first with the state's opening statement. Overall, I think that the state did a great job. I really liked how Sarah started out with Dan and how he started his day on the day of the murder, taking the kids to school. And I thought it did a nice job of painting the picture from Dan's perspective, and I felt it was really compelling. Now, she continued with the two separate paths theme from Katie's last trial. Now, one path is the law enforcement's efforts to track the Prius, and then the second path was to determine who in Dan Markel's personal life would want to murder him for motive. And after hard law enforcement work, the two paths led to this defendant, Charlie Adelson. I like how the state previewed Donna's emails, including the $1 million bribe. But that's interesting because that comes up in the defense's opening as well. I like how they went into the family dynamics, including Charlie's extremely close relationship with Donna and how she relied on him to solve problems, including this problem of Dan Markel and the desperate desire to get Wendy and the children to South Florida. And then she linked the post-divorce litigation, most notably Dan's counter motion to enforce the marital settlement agreement on parenting issues, and that real threat that Donna could be prohibited from having unsupervised visitation with the children. I liked Sarah's quote, "Charlie made sure this motion was never a problem." I also liked how she included some of the defense's questioning from voir dire and addressed it. So one of the examples was the trash talking of in-laws. And what Sarah said was, this situation stopped being trash talk when Dan was murdered by a hitman. Now, Sarah talks about the money, follow the money, and all the benefits that Katie, Sigfredo, and Lewis received after the murder. Now, we now know the defense's theory. They're going to argue that those benefits and monies are evidence of payments in this extortion plot. I also liked how she previewed the bump and some of the damaging wiretaps and gave some examples of this code talk that they will be hearing, such as the references to property. Overall, I think the state did a great job. It was very succinct and very compelling. Now, the defense. My immediate takeaway is I do not see how Charlie Adelson is not going to testify given this defense extortion theory and extortion on extortion theory, but we'll get into that. I think Daniel Rashbaum started off strong. I liked how he struck a nice balance, a respectful balance between, sympathy for Dan, the victim, and respect for the prosecution. I generally like his cadence. I liked how he moved around a little bit, not too much, but he seemed very comfortable. And I thought he came across well, at least his style. I'm not so sure about some of these defense theories, but we'll get to that. Now, he introduced what I expect to be the overarching defense theme, which is the puzzle. And he mentioned how if a puzzle piece doesn't fit in, it becomes a whole mess. And he argues that the state's theories and assumptions do not fit in the real puzzle, the real story of what happened on July 18th. This is where I admit I was really surprised. Rashbaum said 2 crimes occurred on July 18th, one, of course, being Dan's murder, and then the other one he left us hanging a little bit. He said he likes those cliffhangers. But he said on the second crime, the state doesn't know about it, and they're about to find out about it just like you, meaning the jury. Now, he gives some background on Charlie and Wendy's lives, and he mentions that Charlie's a talker, and he has a history of making bad jokes. And he talks about the relocation, and he says Wendy never thought that the petition to relocate would ever be granted, that her lawyer told her it wouldn't be granted, but Wendy said, let's give it a shot. Well, I guess we now know why Wendy's attorney is going to be on the defense list. Now, Her lawyer may have said that legally, the likelihood of this petition being granted under these circumstances is low, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't super important to Wendy or Donna. Motive. I thought it was smart that he directly addressed Donna and Harvey and how wrapped up they were in Wendy's relocation and the divorce, and even mentions the crazy ideas. But he says that none of the crazy ideas had to do with an actual murder or an actual crime. And that's true, but I don't think that's the point. The point about the crazy ideas, which we know were things like converting the children to the Christian faith, dressing them up in horrible hate group uniforms. In my opinion, this goes to show how desperate the Adelsons were to get Wendy and her kids in South Florida and how much it meant to them to have this done. Again, motive. Now we're getting to their theory. He tells the story about Charlie and Katie and how they met, and that they were in this kind of nice casual relationship, something that made them both happy because he was super busy with his periodontist practice and she had 2 kids, so she was busy. He described it as carefree. He states that Charlie talked to Katie a lot, just like with his mom. And in fact, Rashbaum said that Charlie talked to Katie a lot about Wendy and Dan's divorce. He even said that he told Katie about the $1 million potential bribe and how he himself could pay the whole thing on his own. And so this is where Rashbaum is setting things up for the extortion claim. Now he continues that Katie at some point started wanting more from Charlie. And he also says that as he got to know Katie more, he learned about Sigfredo and how violent and dangerous of a guy Sigfredo was. Rashbaum claims that Sigfredo hated Charlie Adelson, and that we're going to hear from witnesses that said Sigfredo wanted to kill Charlie, and that he even tried to kill Charlie before the June trip to Tallahassee. Now, regarding July 1st, Rashbaum claims that Sigfredo tried to run Charlie off the road. Now, I assume this is at Katie's apartment in the parking lot, and it was this jet ski incident that we've all heard about before. Rashbaum claims that Sigfredo tried to call the Adelson Institute thinking that he was going to reach Charlie, but he got the voice message and there was an emergency number. So Sigfredo supposedly calls the number thinking it's Charlie and threatens to kill him. And Sigfredo specifically supposedly says, "If you keep dating Katie, I'm going to kill you." Now, on the day of the murder, Charlie receives the phone call from his mom that Dan was shot. And supposedly Charlie's first question to Donna was whether the boys were okay. And he was supposed to have dinner with Katie that evening, but he tells her he's not feeling well and they'll just meet at home. And Katie apparently agrees to come to his house to comfort him. Now, a question I have, when did Charlie tell Katie that Dan was shot? Anyway, Rashbaum says he's going to give us details on how Katie got there and how she had to scramble around for a babysitter. Now, when Katie arrives to Charlie's house, she's frantic. She's upset and scared, and Charlie has never seen her this way before. And she says that something terrible happened and that a friend of hers killed Professor Markel. She tells Charlie she had nothing to do with it, but she apparently had been blabbing her mouth about that $1 million bribe from Wendy's divorce, so those friends got it in their mind to kill Dan. And now Charlie apparently screams at her and he says, "Who did this?" Now Rashbaum promises us we're going to learn in detail what happened. But part of it is that if Charlie doesn't pay extortion money in the next 24 hours, he will be killed next. Rashbaum said that the initial payment was actually more than $100,000, which he took out of his safe. And then Rashbaum says that Charlie didn't have $1/3 of $1 million on hand in his safe, so he had to pay every month. Now, Rashbaum's explanation for the gifts to Katie, he says that's different. Those were gifts because he became convinced over time that Katie wasn't involved and he needed her help. He also claims that he had to tell Donna about the extortion plot because she's the one that wrote the checks to Katie from the Adelson Institute. Now, regarding the bump, Rashbaum characterizes it as an extortion on extortion. And as he said in the Arthur hearing, he's going to go through that Dolce Vita recording and the wiretaps and show how they prove Charlie's innocence. He argues that the reference to layers and the second layer is specifically a reference to the bump. Now, as I mentioned in my community post, the defense's theory somewhat takes some of the air out of the state's evidence. For example, the stapled money. And indeed, Rashbaum says that some of the state's evidence is true. Now, he ends by contending that the state's case is all about assumptions and guesses. He tells the jury that a man's life is in your hands, he's innocent, and to send him home. All right, my takeaways. As I mentioned earlier, I think Charlie has to testify to support this defense theory of extortion. I mean, who else is going to testify to Charlie's story on what happened at his house the night of the murder with Katie? Or any of the other claims that Rashbaum made that basically center around Katie. I also think that this means that Katie might likely have to actually take the stand. Now, we know the defense is going to attack her as a liar. But she's really the only person that can speak to what happened the night of the murder at Charlie's house when this extortion plot began, that second crime. I mean, the only other person is Charlie, right? And then, of course, all of these other things that Rashbaum says, and he's teasing us, like the texts during their relationship and, you know, what Charlie shared with her regarding Dan and Wendy's relationship and, you know, of course, details on how Katie even got to Charlie's house the day of the murder. I find the defense strategy a bit incredible, but guys, we have to wait and see what they put forth. Now, a question I have on the extortion theory is why would Charlie just agree to pay it? Like, why wouldn't he go to the police or the feds when this all happened? Is it credible to think he didn't go to the police or the feds because, as Charlie says, I don't talk to cops? What do you guys think? It is going to be certainly interesting. And like I said, I think this is almost a guarantee that we're going to see Charlie on the stand. Now, I'll cover Wendy's testimony tomorrow. So please make sure to check back. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great night. Bye.